Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Woody Jacob here to bring you another video today. This time I'm going to be doing a figure review. And I know I don't do many figure reviews. I used to, but I actually had a bunch of videos of me reviewing Marvel Legends, Marvel Selects, NECA figures, and stuff like that. But I deleted those videos when I got more into my TV show discussion review type videos. I probably shouldn't have deleted those videos, actually. I kind of regret doing that. But, if you want to see me review any stuff later on, just feel free to comment. I have a decent, like a small but somewhat satisfying size of Marvel figures and NECA stuff, so I can tell you what I have if you guys want to. But anyway, right now I'm here to review the Funko Game of Thrones Tyrion Lannister figure. I'll give you guys a good look at it. The 360 for you. Now before we get into the figure, I'll show you the packaging real quick. Packaging is actually pretty nice. Legacy collection is the second figure in the wave. And of course there's the House Lannister symbol right there. A shot of Tyrion from Season 2 during the battle for Blackwater. Of course, if you guys remember that episode, that was when he, after the Hound left, that's when he organized the defense of King's Landing against Stannis and his men. And of course, other figures in Series 1 include Jon Snow, the Hound, the White Walker, Daenerys Targaryen, the Mother of Dragons, of course, and Ned Stark. And now, most of these figures aren't very impressive, to be honest. I mean, the Ned Stark figure doesn't have a very good likeness to Sean Bean whatsoever, in my opinion. The Jon Snow one's pretty off, too. The Hound one's decent, and from what I've seen, the Daenerys Targaryen one isn't awful, but it could use a lot of improvement, too. And then the White Walker is the only one that's quite a bit closer. So I may pick up like a White Walker and maybe Daenerys at some point. I haven't really looked into Wave 2 yet, but maybe some other time. So the packaging is pretty nice, though. I like it. I got it at FYE, if you were wondering. They also have these type of figures available at Barnes & Noble as well. So yeah, let's get into the figure a little bit. First off, and most importantly, how good is the likeness to Peter Dinklage, the actor who plays him on the show? Well, first off, the camera makes him look a little bit more pale than the figure actually is. The figure isn't this white, so don't think the skin tone's that off, okay? It actually has decent color to it. He's still a little bit pale, but not nearly on the level of how my camera is making it look right now. So that's not really an issue for me. But, it's a webcam, so it's not going to have the greatest focus either. But if you guys can't really tell, the likeness is okay. I mean, it's definitely not great. It's not awful either. It doesn't really look too much like Peter Dinklage, to be honest, but I've definitely seen like worse interpretations or like versions of TV show characters on figures before. Like, I have 2 Walking Dead figures. I have, like, the Merle and Daryl 2-pack. But I never really got more into those figures because just the likenesses on those McFarlane Walking Dead figures are usually pretty off. Especially, there was a Shane one I wanted to get before, but the likeness on that was just awful. And pretty horrendous, so I never really got into those figures. So these figures are a little bit better than those. But some of the McFarlane stuff lately has been okay, too. But just some of the older stuff was a little bit ugh. But anyway, so this is better than most of the McFarlane Walking Dead figures as far as likenesses go. But it's still not nearly dead on, and it's not on the level of like NECA or, definitely not Hot Toys or anything like that. But it's still decent enough to where you can tell what character it's supposed to be. So that's basic, I guess, but that's still, at least there's that, right? And let's see, before I go over the articulation, I'll show you some more sculpting details I like. The hair is sculpted actually very nicely. I really like that. It's pretty accurate to how it is on the show. There's just a lot of like waviness to it, and they show that pretty well. It's kind of hard to see some of the details on my webcam, but just trust me. And there is a little bit of shading in the hair, not too much though, but just a little, so it does look pretty nice. The eyes, they're painted pretty well. I mean, they're not perfect, they're not dead on to the show, but they're painted nicely. There's not really too much sloppiness with them. And of course, they give him a little bit of a stubble, like some 5 o'clock shadow there, which Tyrion actually hasn't had much of until like season 4, sort of. And of course, going into season 5, he has like a full-on beard now. But back in season 2, he didn't really have much of a beard or even a 5 o'clock shadow, really. He was more clean-shaven. So I don't really know if the stubble is really necessary, but again, it's not really that much of a stretch for the character, so it's not that big of a deal. And the armor itself, the little necklace he has right here, it's not really... You can like sort of remove it, but you feel like you'd be damaging the figure if you try to like tear it. It feels like it's maneuverable, like you can move it, but when you move it, you feel like you have to like peel it off. And I'm worried if I try to do that, it might like take off some of the paint on the armor or something. I'm not sure. But the armor itself, on the other hand, is painted fairly nicely, I guess. You can see some of the dry brushing and things like that. It's probably one of the better details of the figure. I like the side of the armor as well. The sculpt is pretty decent on this thing. It's pretty good. And I get into his legs and his feet. Sculpted pretty well. I like the boots. Again, I apologize that the webcam can't really pick up the real details of it, but it's pretty decent throughout, as far as sculpting goes. And he comes with one accessory, and that would be his axe that he used in that episode. And the axe itself is actually pretty nice. I mean, it's a really sharp sculpt. And I like the little grips it has on the bottom, so it can stay in his hand a little bit easier. And I really like the blade on it too. It looks really nice, like it was made at King's Landing. It looks pretty nice. So I like that. I wish it would have came with like a alternate head or like a helmet you could put on him or something like that, as he had one during the battle. But it's not a huge deal. I do like some of the straps on the armor on the back as well. And yeah, that's really the details of the figure that I want to show. And I'll show you the articulation real quick. The foot does go up and down quite a bit actually. Up a little amount. And then it has like this knee swivel 360, and it can actually bend like a single joint right there. I think it's a single joint or hinge, whatever you want to call it. I've have not been doing these reviews for a long time, so not very often anyway. So forgive me if I forget some of the terminology for figure reviews, and the leg itself can move out like so, and then up like that, down like that, and there's no waist movement. That's kind of hindered by the armor anyway, hindered by the armor sculpt. So no waist movement, there's no torso joint or anything like that. For the hand, there's no like individual like hand movement. Well, yeah, there is. On this one, it's a little bit harder to move on mine for some reason, but on the other one, there is like a full 360 for the hand. And there's a single at the elbow, and the forearm can actually do a 360 as well. And then the elbow, or the shoulder, can move out like that, and like that. And can't really move up too much though, a little bit. And actually does a full 360. Sorry about that. Kind of contradicted myself within 2 seconds there, but whatever. And the head, it can't really look up too much, a little bit. it's a decent amount, I guess, so you can get him into a decent pose with like another character on a display or something. It's okay. Looks down a little bit, but Tyrion's not really going to look down at too much. So yeah, the articulation on this guy isn't the best, but it's also not the worst I've seen on a figure either. But I also don't really buy figures for articulation anymore. I mean, what's most important to me is like the sculpt and the detail and the paint and things like that. So all that first, and if there's a good amount of articulation too, well then great. That's my attitude towards it. And yeah, I'll show you some size comparisons real quick. I have the Mezco Breaking Bad Heisenberg Walter White figure right here. So I'll show you them right here. They're kind of being held at the same height right now, the same level, so you can see that. I know it's not the same brand, obviously Mezco and Funko, but it's still like pretty reasonable for how tall Tyrion would be compared to like the average person, the average like figure character or whatever you want to say. And then I'll also show you a comparison with him and the NECA Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla figure. Obviously Tyrion's not almost as tall as Godzilla, but just thought it'd be another comparison for you guys. Sorry about that. And then I also have a Peter Griffin figure right here. I forget what brand it was, but it's one of those with the soundboards and the effects if you plug them into them. So there's that. And I did measure the exact height of the figure anyway in inches, so it's a little over 4 inches, close to 4 1/4. So yeah, that's really all I have to say about this figure. Overall, the likeness itself isn't the best, but it's also not the worst I've seen on figures either. So it's tolerable, and you can it's still decent enough to where you can tell what character it's supposed to be. So at least there's that, like I said, right? And the axe is ever so slightly difficult to get into his hand, but it does pop in pretty easy once you know how to maneuver it a little. And then it does stay in his hand fairly well, so that is nice. So yeah, overall, likeness is a little bit off, but it's decent. The sculpting is actually really good, and then the articulation is okay as well. So yeah, not really the best. It's not like on the level of NECA or Hot Toys or anything like that. But if you're a fan of the show and you really want like a physical form of the figure in your collection, this isn't a bad option. I mean, I got it for about $19.99 plus tax. So it's a little bit expensive, but it's also not like the most outrageous price either. It's a little like it's a few bucks over like NECA's usual price or their stuff, so it's not that bad. So yeah, if you're a fan of the show, it's not a bad pickup, but I have heard some complaints about issues of breakage with these figures. So I was a little bit paranoid opening them up and pulling them out of the box. But mine is alright for now, but I'd just be careful with it anyway. Be careful with these figures in general. I mean, you're not going to like bash them together or anything, I don't think, but still, be cautious. So yeah, not bad if you're a fan of the show. And yeah, I'll catch you guys next time. And peace. Can't wait for Season 5 to start Sunday, by the way. My review for the premiere will be out by Monday. So yeah, I'll catch you guys for that.